Good day, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us this afternoon during our masterclass titled Building Customized Solutions for Customers. With us, we have Enrico Ferrigoli, co-founder of Bottles App, Liquor and Groceries, in partnership with Pick and Pay, which is amazing. And before we start, I just want to let the audience know that the Q&A function has been enabled for you to send any questions, and then the chat function is for you to send any comments that you may have. I would like this session to be more interactive. Ask any questions that you have, because we have a startup that also started from somewhere and now they've partnered with a big retail store. So please, guys, let's make it more interactive. Enrico, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Enrico. I'm one of the two co-founders of Bottles. We started about 4 years ago as an on-demand alcohol delivery app. We actually, in the very early days, pitched to join 22 Ounce Loan. So we've been around since 2016. We started as an on-demand alcohol delivery app at a time when Uber Eats and Ordering and various food delivery apps weren't really there. And then effective next week. We've gone through this entire journey from, I guess, a small startup to being able to partner and then sell to a big retailer. Within Bottles, I look after the technology part of the business as well as the operations side of the business.
Thank you very much, Enrico, for that introduction. So right now we'll just be doing a bit of a Q&A session, and please send in your questions there at the Q&A if you feel like you need us to repeat something or you want to just ask a question. Thank you. So Enrico, how did you develop your own app software when you started this Bottles app?
So when we started at the beginning, both myself and my co-founder come from a marketing background. So we're not developers, so I think there was a big part or a big challenge in the beginning of our journey to find someone that had the skills to be able to build a customer-facing on-demand app, and I think that the reality at the time back in 2000 had that capabilities in South Africa. So we found developers that we got in touch with through colleagues that we could trust, to be honest, and we actually started building this and building their capabilities to deliver this software. The only approach we knew, which was the consumer first, and I think this is what guides is trying to make the user experience in the app the best it can be. And so I think at times we see ourselves as a tech startup. At times we see almost ourselves just as a retailer, but that our store is not a normal store you walk into. Is a digital store, right? But it's not. We almost don't see ourselves just as a tech business. Because I think if our priority was always the tech, I think we would always forget that the actual reason or the reason why we've been able to scale and ultimately to sell is because we have built something that consumer wanted. When we started, you could already buy liquor online, right? So the challenge wasn't that I can't buy a case of beer online, is that I would get it in 5 days, right? So our question was, why can't I get it now? And and technology, so the ability to have a geolocated app where you would connect to the closest store, like Uber Eats had just started to do in the US, was the solution to a consumer issue. As wasn't necessarily, oh, we want to launch an app, it wasn't driven per se by the technology as the driver, was the user and what we wanted to get or to allow the user to do, and what is the technology that would allow us to do that, right? If you look at how the app works, that's what actually allows us to deliver in 60 minutes. It's integrated with Google Maps, and it asks you straight away, where are you? That's the first thing, right? As opposed to take you through a journey and then at the end you put your address, but you can't order, or you can only get it in 3 days, right? The promise is 60 minutes. So what is the first action? Is where are you and can I serve you? And if I can serve you, what is the pricing and the stock availability of that closest store in the network? So I think that while, of course, I mean, I run the tech of the business, so I'm very passionate about it. I think that I'm a marketer first, and I think that I look at that first as tech needs to solve an issue or needs to simplify the operations of a business almost, right? So that's almost why I do tech and operations in the business, because the ultimate thing is we want to get people to have a drink in 60 minutes. How do we do it operationally, and how can tech support us to get there? So that's kind of how it started.
Great. I know that COVID really pushed your business up. You know, I mean, like you were during lockdown, we had restrictions of alcohol being sold and all that, and obviously it had an impact on your business. Hence, now you had to now look at another aspect of your business where you could improve, how you can now be resilient. So how did COVID help you? And looking at the demands over the past 9 months, meaning from January during COVID and after COVID, we're still in COVID, but like now it's at least more business operational. How has the demands been, and how did you create your application to optimize your offerings?
Absolutely. So look, COVID has been a crazy time for us, and it dramatically and fundamentally changed the business that we have today. Probably like professionally, the biggest challenge I've ever had to experience. We were, if you go back to February of this year, we were a business in a slide, in a good level of growth and scaling. We were doing something unique. We had been able to create new things in the South African market that other people were like kind of copying or trying to do a similar thing in other industries, and we had almost like a steady level of growth. Then comes lockdown, and for the first 3 or 4 days, because we knew that bottle stores were supposed to close, or that rather that that people wouldn't want to go to retail stores. And for the first 3 or 4 days, the volume doubled and tripled, because everybody wanted to, almost felt like doomsday kind of preppers. Let's get stuff in and let's have it at home, right? And then when the first time that Cyril spoke, we already kind of knew that they were actually going to stop liquor, and it was a scary time, because you spent 3.5 years building your business, and all of a sudden you can't sell the product, and it was really scary. We had 30 employees. We were really worried. I think that what we did there was to decide to, together with our partner Pick n Pay, which we have been partnering for since 2018, we decided to pivot the entire business to be a grocery essential business at first. So I think that we had the opportunity where our partner that we have been working with for the last 2 years didn't have an on-demand solution. There's lots where completely filled up already. So they came to us and we went to them at the exact same time, and like, we have no business, but we have the technology. You have a business, but you don't have the technology. Let's do this together. And then we started delivering grocery essentials for Pick and Pay, or with Pick and Pay. We started on a Tuesday with 2 stores. By the Saturday, we had about 72 stores live across the country. And so very often we talk about how we pivoted the entire business in 4 days. But I think that especially in the context of this masterclass, that it's all about software, I think that we need to look at what allowed us to pivot in 4 days. And what allowed us to pivot in 4 days is that we had built a level of underlying technology or a technology solution and a technology integration with Pick and Pay that allowed us to do that. So between 2018 and 2020, for example, we had built an integration with the ERP system, with SAP, right? So which will control what stock is at the store, what's the price for that stock, and to a level that when we started pivoting, the biggest challenge for us would have always been to know what items each store has and at what price. But because we already we had built this underlying technology, or this API as you would call it, we would literally need to input a whole bunch of barcodes, and the next day we would know exactly who has broccoli and who has potatoes, and we could go and launch this. Had we not had that, we would probably not have been able to pivot that quickly, to be honest. So I think that the insight here for me is that especially in a partnership, and especially in this new world that we are living in today, I think when you build a software, it needs to be API first. It needs to be you need to be able to build the core of your service and own that core part of your service, and not try to build something that you don't believe in the long term will be your competitive advantage, and rather have an API integration with the people that are doing that. We do this across the board. What we have done and what we are expert at is a shopping app. And it's a shopping app, is a media channel, is a route to market, and the delivery, the products is all stuff that we are integrated into the expert edit, and that's what I think allowed us to pivot in 4 days, and in that process to triple the sales, quadruple the user base, so that when you look at the business that we are today, we're just a different business. It's almost weird, because you look back at what we were doing earlier and what we're doing now, and it's just so incredibly different. And I guess that's I think the side where we were able to do this fast. At the same time, the shopping experience of grocery and the shopping experience of liquor is so dramatically different that in the last 6 months, we also had to catch up on a lot of things that we didn't have before that becomes really relevant. And I'll give you guys 2 examples, right? So one is your average basket on liquor is 2 to 3 items, right? You place an order for gin, tonic, ice, done. 3 items, and you choose between about, let's say, 1,002 to 1,500 items, and most of those items are pretty standard items in any bottle store, right? So your stock availability is usually really good, right? So we never had the need, for example, to to ask you, hey, this item is not available, can I offer you a substitute? And when we had to do that, we could do it with a phone call because it was 1%, 2% of the instances. Now, you take that and you move it to a grocery shopping, 20, 25 items in a basket with, I don't know, 10, 12,000 items in a store, probably even more. And all of a sudden, there is no way that when you place an order, you don't have any out of stock. So we literally had to very, very quickly develop a in-app out of stock substitution functionality that will tell you, hey, the broccoli you order is not there. This is the other vegetables that you can order, right? And that has been an incredibly tough journey because we had the technology, we had the operational solution, we had the delivery solution, we have the team to do it, but there were a couple of technical or rather of user-related elements that weren't fitting the shopping journey, and that's where we really had to kind of move really fast. The second one that is also quite important is because of the sheer size of items, you would when you do grocery shopping, especially online, you would always start with search, right? Because you're not gonna go through milk to find your milk. You're gonna search for milk. You're gonna search for bread. You're gonna search for like 80% of the items that you need, and then you're gonna go and top it up with a few things. While in liquor, you would have a relatively limited menu. It would say beer, cider, wine, gin. You wouldn't go and search for your gin when you already had a very simple way to get to gins. And that's another thing that we had to work really hard to implement really fast with a relatively limited knowledge of the grocery shopping and the grocery trends compared to liquor. So we had in the last 9 months to really learn really fast how that world works and how that world is different from liquor, right? And that's for me two things that we needed to adapt to our software really fast to adjust that the shopping experience to a completely new category.
That's really great, Enrico. You know what I've noticed with most software developers that try to venture into business is that most don't understand that you can be a very good software developer, but business is a different type of field, you know. And I think with you guys, especially you have a great marketing background, whereas I don't know about your partner, but I think you having a great marketing background really did help because they knew exactly where's your target market, where you can, like, you had that base, the foundation, which is really great. So which leads to this question that how did you, I know you've touched on it, but now I just want you to just at least expand on it more. How did you design your product to be customer centric from, I mean, like the moment you started, you know, until now? I mean, like at first it was just a alcohol centric app. Now you have to now include groceries and all of that. How did you manage that? And how do you ensure that you deliver groceries within 90 minutes, all the complications that happen? How did you guys also try to mitigate all those problem aspects?
Sure. So I guess if I try and answer the first part of the question, which is more about the user journey within the app, by downloading every possible e-commerce app in the world, right? And playing around with them and choosing what do you think is the best consumer journey. I did a masterclass last year with you guys at 22 Ounce Lawn, and the first kind of insight that I was trying to land with entrepreneurs at 22 Ounce Lawn is that when you think you have an idea, the first thing you should do is go and Google it because someone has already done it, right? And the reality is that unless you are building something that is completely out of this world, that no one has ever heard about, which is not common right? This is not what happens. This is not what entrepreneurs do, right? Entrepreneurs are not inventors, right? Inventors create something that just didn't exist before, right? Entrepreneurship is about selling it to customers, right? And you don't need to sell something that just is just completely different. It's just the customer proposition. Is how is this different from what was there before? What were the issues that were there before, and how do I make it better? And I think in that context, for us, the first thing we did was literally go to Google it. We found that in the US was already there, right? And as an alcohol delivery app, quite sizable. They just raised a lot of capital. So we downloaded all of those apps and we went through the consumer journey step by step. And then we built our consumer journey saying, I like this feature. I don't like this feature. I think the consumer journey should be shorter. When do I ask for what details at what stage? And literally that's how we built it, right? I think that that for me is the customer centric way of doing it, right? As opposed to any other way that is more driven by what technology are you using and things that don't necessarily matter if your objective is to get people to buy stuff. If you want people to buy stuff, then you want people to have the most frictionless journey throughout every step of the app and the shortest journey possible, right? So we were targeting a certain amount of minutes to get from opening the app, registering and placing an order. We were targeting a certain number of screens. We were targeting a certain number of button clicks. You minimize those, you maximize the opportunity to shop, right? And that's where we kind of focus from a user journey point of view. From a logistics or an operational point of view, I think that the reality is that when we first launched, there was no on-demand economy in South Africa. Literally, Uber Eats hadn't launched. Mr. Delivery hadn't been bought by Naspers. Was still like Mr. Delivery, and it was a magnet on your fridge. And ordering, I just launched a website. So it was really hard because we were really focused on the user journey and experience and the app side of the app, and we were hoping naively so that we would find delivery companies to do deliveries with us. And I think that was the biggest roadblock we had to face, to the point that we started recruiting our own drivers. And for a very long time, we scaled from like, I don't know, 1,000 orders to maybe 10 or 12,000 orders with our own drivers. And we scaled from 0 to 1,000 orders by calling Ubers and placing the pickup point at the liquor store and telling them that I was calling an Uber, but I'm not there, and you need to go inside the bottle store and pick up an order and go and deliver it to a client. And that's literally how we did orders for at least 18 months. And that's how we proved the model. That's how we raised the first round of capital at Shark Tank. And we really hustled it hard there. We had 12, 15 phones with Uber accounts and Taxify accounts, and that's how it started. And we built that expertise throughout the years. And in the last year now, you start seeing logistics company or on-demand businesses that are really focusing on the logistic leg, because it's a very specific type of skill to have. And as these companies have grown, we have jumped on the bandwagon of saying, I don't want to do this for any longer than I have to. You guys are the expert. You guys are spending hundreds of millions to build the technology stack to make sure that the driver can come to a store, pick the order, leave the store, and deliver in 12 minutes. I want to partner with you and not try to do it myself. And that's what I think you see across all the delivery apps that you've been seeing that are not that are not Uber and Mr. D, I think you see that, right, where the logistic partner are coming on board to actually become an on-demand logistic partner as well.
Oh, thank you, Enrico. I'm actually on your LinkedIn page, and I realized that you guys won the Best South African App with the MTN App Awards. Congratulations. So with that, what makes your app different from like all these other applications, all these delivery applications, Uber? What makes it different, and what do you think draws customers to your application?
Look, I guess that in the past, when there was less, I think, competition, I think that our point of difference was that we were really the only on-demand alcohol delivery app that was really focused on liquor, that had good prices, that had the widest range, and that was really our point of difference. Like, you could buy beer on Uber Eats, but it was like so much more expensive, and the range wasn't curated. And while we were the expert at that, if you like, I think that now the main point of difference is that it's an easy to use app. It has a very simple consumer flow. It is backed by Pick and Pay, which has very good range, very good prices, very good products, and a lot of different locations. That means that you can get your grocery really fast at Pick and Pay in-store prices. So you're not spending any more than you would spend if you were going to the grocery store, other than for the delivery fee. But again, the delivery fee is like compared to you going to the store and doing it yourself. So I think that, I guess that it's again, we are at the very initial stages of it. I think that grocery shopping is one of the things that everybody has to do at least once a week, and that very few people like, and also because of the time that it takes you to do that grocery shop. It's very often a weekend activity, right? If you and your wife or husband work, like, when do you go and do grocery shopping that takes an hour? You have to do it on weekends, but on weekends you want to do other things, right? So I think that the point of difference, or I think that the unique service that we provide, and it's not just unique to us, it's unique to the category. So Zuzi does something similar, and One Card or Checkers with something similar, is that I think that it is a major activity that everybody has to go through, that is very far from being optimized. You have to jump into your car, go to a grocery store, spend an hour there, go through a list, and you never know exactly what the items are. You go back and forth, you waste time. It's not a great experience, right? And I think that what you used to be able to do by going to the grocery store, now it's probably like a 12 minutes on the app while you're sitting on your couch, and you can schedule your delivery, and it doesn't have to come now, it can come tomorrow, and all of that. So I think that I think what the industry does, and I think that from our side, I think for us is Pick and Pay prices, is fast delivery. It's a reliable app. It's an easy consumer journey, and I guess those are the factors that helped us win the MTN award and the BCX award and a few awards we won today. I guess coupled with the fact that the pivot is a cool story, right? Anyone else that is competing with us today is a grocery delivery app. Well, I think we were the only one that were in the grocery delivery app that we had to pivot, and I think it's almost like a fun story that I think adds a little bit of edge to what we've done.
Thank you, Enrico. We have a question here from Fahima. The question is, for a new application company, any advice at raising funds?
I mean, I guess that raising funds it's probably not limited to whether you're a tech business or not, right? I think that raising funds is I mean, it's a very extensive topic. I'll tell you. I guess I can only start from my experience, right? I think that the starting point for me is that while the VC world is not or the VC category is not as wide in South Africa, I think that there is capital out there to fund good ideas. So that's the first thing. I think that we shouldn't think that we have I have such a great idea, but nobody's gonna put money in it. No, there is a lot of people out there that have money to deploy to support good ideas, right? But I think that in that context, I think you need to first look at who has the money and the ability to help you grow. I think that the biggest challenge that I think we had as while we were raising funds was to raise funds plus, and that plus needs to be something that you can bring me on top, that is not just the money you give me, right? And with our first round of investment, it was the mentoring that two guys like Ran Neer and Guy Loved, who built a 1.5 or something billion rand business with the Creative Council, helped us, right? They gave us office space and they gave us the support we needed, and they gave us what it means to be an entrepreneur. And that was really valuable for us, right? So it wasn't just the money, but it was the money and what we could get out of them, right? So I think that if you have investors that are not adding value beyond the money, then you should never choose them over anyone else, even if there's some other person is offering you less, but they have a specific skills. In our second round of investment, we raised it from a major independent liquor retailer, right? And that group, the founder of that group, the management team of that group taught us everything we know today about the liquor industry, gave us the contacts with manufacturers, taught us how the entire industry works, and gave us money plus, right? It gave us the money, but it also gave us a level of expertise that helped us grow beyond just helping us on what we don't know. And I think that the thing is that when you start a business, you only really expert in an area. For us was marketing, for a developer is tech, but all the rest you don't really know. So the more your investors can help you with that, I think the better. One area where I always thought that I should have asked more help for is I think on the accounting and finance side, which is a very difficult to learn. And I think that if you get investment from people that have built their businesses and they have money to invest, it means that they have a good expertise on that side. And that's something that if I could go back, I'll probably leverage more.
Thank you, Enrico. So in relation to that question, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered from within your own whole journey, and how would you advise these entrepreneurs to overcome them? Because there's a lot of common challenges that I feel like every entrepreneur encounters, but they never know how to tackle it.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, a few things, right? So the first one for me is that the difference between success and failure in entrepreneurship is very seldom about the idea, because we're not inventors. Again, we're not inventing something that didn't exist. We just refining and further refining a business model, right? Like all the things that we buy today, all the things where we spend money on today is just a refinement of what it used to be, right? You go and buy a laptop today, And 200 years ago, it wasn't a laptop. It was a I don't know the English for it, but it was a piece of wood where you could calculate things, right? And then it was a calculator. It's just an improvement on a business model, right? So I think in that, for me, in that context, the what you need to do is you need to do it every single day. You need to be resilient. Then, no matter how hard today was, the next day you're gonna wake up and do it all over again. In our most difficult times, we were was always on, right? You could always place an order, so you always needed someone to be there, right? So imagine working 19 days on, 2 days off for years. It destroys you unless you know that it's unless you're comfortable with the fact that you just have to do it all over again every single day, and at one point you have a breakthrough and it just gets better. The second point for me is that you can't do this if you're doing this alone. And potentially I would say this is the most important point. I the only reason why I achieved what I achieved is because I have a co-founder that I trust, a co-founder that I believe is better than me, is a co-founder that I can tell him today I am really tired and I can't do this, and even if he can't do this either, he'll pick me up. And as in I was reading a book a while ago, that there's of a group of entrepreneurs that sold to Facebook, right? And there is a chapter in that book that is all about the founder's relationship, and the chapter is called Like a Marriage Without the Sex. Let's put it that way. Let me not swear. So, and that's what the relationship between co-founders is. You married, right? And that gives you the opportunity to support each other on a daily basis, to grow each other, to trust each other, and to achieve something. So I guess that I would rather, and I would always prefer to own 50% of a business where I have a co-founder that will always trust me and support me, that own 100% of a business when I'm alone, I'm alone, and when like the entrepreneurship journey, it's always up and down and up and down, and when it's dark, it's really dark, and it's a bit less dark if you have someone to do it with. So for me, these are the two things that I would always recommend any entrepreneur. One is find someone to do this with, because it's gonna get hard, and the other one is to almost find that right balance between where you want to be in 2 or 3 years, but all you have to do is to wake up today and do it again. And it's going to be tiring, and it's going to be 10 p.m. before you realize it. But again, wake up the next day, go and do it all over again. That's for me is the two most important insights that I think I can give.
Thank you very much, Enrico. Okay, so this is gonna be my last question. I don't know if you've been through these. Now this question is in relation to like now young developers, the ones that are attending hackathons, the ones that enter also this MTN business apps, all those. What advice would you give them? I mean, like everyone during hackathons, I don't know if you've attended hackathons before. You creating this business, they ask you to please create an application to solve 1, 2, and 3. I don't know how to phrase this question, but like, how would you advise that person to further that application? I mean, like, it's still in prototype testing, right? So now there's still a long journey until now we can actually launch the product. What advice would you give people that are still in the prototype phase, the ideation phase? Let me say that, because then it's more difficult than a person that already has something at least there, and they just need to market the product and go into testing. What advice would you give them?
I think the same advice that I was saying before is, uh, unless you're building something that has never existed before, um, go and find the apps that are already doing this with consumers and figure out what are you missing, right? That for me is the key point of difference. I get amazed every day by how many businesses get launched every day, um, that are doing the same thing that others were doing before, but with just one difference, one thing that the consumer never got, that now they deliver, and that makes them grow. Just think about it. Like, I don't know, yesterday I was looking at this out of home of Willy, right, which sells it's like second-hand cars. And you would think Auto Trader has been doing this for 20 years, and then what's the other one with the funny advertising, that there's three or four where you can go and sell your car, right? And so it's not that technology is different. It's not that they've done something radically different, but they have found We Buy Cars. Yes, that's the one. We Buy Cars. And it's like there's one thing that they do differently. Like, you try to sell your car on We Buy Cars, and you realize that actually is not the best way, because they never gonna give you more than 50%, right, of the car. And I think that really saw that and said there is a fine balance between the money you can get from a retail, that is going to try to sell you another car, so it's going to give you a good price, and the terrible price that probably We Buy Cars is trying to give you. There is a balance there, and that's what I think they've executed. So for me, especially if you are a developer, you need to focus on, you need to think about the user journey, and you need to realize that, at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about, it's about making it easy. I have another great example. I was listening to a podcast from the guys that created Stripe. It's either Stripe or Foursquare, a payment solution, right? The first version of Stripe was 7 lines of coding. And it was 7 lines of coding because these two incredibly intelligent developers understood that the challenge with payments wasn't that payments online weren't sophisticated enough, but that payments online weren't simple enough to be deployed across 7 billion websites around the world. And that's what they understood. So they took their incredible expertise in app development and built the simplest product you could find, that because it was that simple could be executed everywhere, right? And you can't do that if you think that technology is the end all. You need to think that the consumer satisfaction is what's really important.
Thank you, Enrico. So the last question, so I'm just going to break down these questions into three. So firstly, any mentors that you would like to mention? And secondly, right now, there's talks about the Africa Free Trade Agreement, meaning that now trading across the African continent will be much easier. And are you looking into expanding your application across all African countries? I know it's going to be very difficult, especially with things like IP, the competitive field and all that. With that, how are you developing your app now to be accessible across all African countries? Are you guys starting now in trying out in like the SADC region before expanding into the African region? And lastly, what do you think stakeholders can do to ensure equal access to resources for entrepreneurs? Thank you.
All right. So the first question. So I guess mentors. I mentioned them before. I think Innovate, Renania, were absolutely incredible in helping us to start this journey. I think that the third one is definitely Soligrama. I mean, a family of incredible entrepreneurs and a family that created some of the long-lasting, liquor franchise in the country. And the second question definitely in the cards. I mean, Pick n Pay as a footprint across Southern Africa. So there's definitely an opportunity. With good opportunity comes certain challenges, and I think that our ability to excel in those countries is also a function of the development of the underlying infrastructure, right? So payment solutions are really key, and if you don't have a payment solution, it's quite difficult to deploy what we have in South Africa in Botswana, right? The third question, if you can repeat it, sorry, I forgot it, Malat.
What do you think stakeholders can do to ensure equal access to resources for entrepreneurs?
You mean public stakeholders? You mean
Private and public,
in what?
because they all ecosystem role players such as incubation hubs, policymakers, all these people that actually have a power of changing the entrepreneurship play field. You know, right now COVID has changed a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunities, and so what do you think stakeholders can do to ensure that entrepreneurs get access to these resources? Looking at the challenges that you
I think it's I'm running the risk of going into a political discussion more than anything else. I love politics. I've been in South Africa for 10 years, and I read a lot about politics, and I'm I at the risk. Look, I think there's two things. I think that that the challenge I think we are facing in South Africa, and that we always talk about the fact that we face it, but we never seem to fix it, is education. And I think that opportunities like what FNB is doing with their tech schools, and what is left to private, I think should be supported by public, right? Instead of doing all of the other funny things that we see they're doing, right? And that for me is a key part of it. The key part of it is that there needs to be a network and a public support of this type of initiative, right? Which I've honestly only seen in very few instances, and I think 22's loan was one of those, but I don't think there are enough. What I think that as South Africans, you guys always forget, and I think I can say that because I've been here long enough, is that you guys have a drive, an energy, and an hustle that I've never seen anywhere in the world. And I can tell you now that I would have never been an entrepreneur in Italy, in my home country. And I think that I'm only an entrepreneur today because the moment I landed in Jozi, I'm like, oh my God, everybody is trying to do their own things. And that is, so I think that the people are already there. The capital may not be perfect, but honestly, I prefer an angel investment to a venture capitalist today. So the money is also there. How is the government supporting this to a level where maths become something that is really important in school, and that you can't have a matric rate pass of 20% on maths and still pass matric, where you put R1 billion toward buying computers, and then computers are not there, but some 10 guys have Rolls Royces. That's the problem, right? That's the part we're missing still. But that shouldn't stop us. That shouldn't stop us, because I think that we have it. I think that I guess I should talk about. I think as South African have it in them to be entrepreneurs, and that is not something that should be given for granted. America is what it is today because that's the spirit, right? People don't want to be working for someone. People want to build their own business, and I think that we have it here in South Africa. And I think that South Africa taught me that, and I'm very thankful for that, to be honest.
Thank you very much, Enrico, for joining us today. It was really an insightful masterclass, and yeah, I really learned a lot about your business. Apart from me, I'm reading online, and with the last question, you're right. We have a lot of African entrepreneurs, not just South African, because me working at 22 and Sloan has made me see different African entrepreneurs all the way from Nigeria, DRC. They're all trying to solve a certain solution. So yeah, I love entrepreneurs because they are solution makers, not they problem solvers. They don't just focus on the problem. So that's why I love entrepreneurship. We don't focus on the government. We don't focus on, we try to solve the problems ourselves. So yeah, and I can clap my hands for you guys. And thank you once again for joining us, to all the participants. Oh, and there's another question. Can we get Enrico's social media handles? So that'll be the closing.
Of course, I will send it. Answer live. I can answer live. Look at that.
Yes, you can answer live, and you can, I think, maybe answer through the comment section so that maybe everyone that needs.
Oh yeah, the comment section is better. Yes.
Yeah.
The comment section is better. Yeah, absolutely, right. Absolutely. I'll do that.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.